This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com. And on the other end in New York right now, we have wrestling legend, the Grappler, Len Denton. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Good, sir. How you doing, buddy? And thank you for that great introduction. It makes me feel good. I don't know what kind of a legend I was, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, we actually had Demolition Axe on not too long ago, and he wanted me to ask you a story about the time that he took off your boot. How is that possible?
I said, no, this was insane. I swear. I mean, okay, so I don't know. I've been working about, hell, it's had to be 20 years or 15 years. I don't know if you're familiar, but me and Roddy Piper were business partners. We owned an automotive shop, a transmission shop. And so I was just wrestling part-time through that era, that part of my life. And so I didn't use my loaded boots, my wrestling boots and my gear that much. And matter of fact, so then I got booked in a show in Florida, a big wrestling reunion show. And so I got them out of the garage and got the cobwebs off the boots and all the stuff and got my tights and went to Florida having a good time. And I'm working with Bill Eadie, of all people. And so I didn't realize these things had got dry rotted. Okay. And so I remember they were really stiff trying to get them on and all this stuff. And I went out there and we're doing a finish where, like I set up the thing where I said, okay, I'll load the boot. I'll shoot you. You nail me. I'll cut you. I'll shoot you. And you catch the boot, spin me around, clothesline me, start untying the boot, and then pull the boot off, And then once you get it off, I said, it's hard to get off, Bill, because, it's a lot of string. It's a different type of boot. You got to get them strings really undone. I'll be pushing with my foot at the same time. When it pops off, I'll get up in the rest of the finish and all that. So we went into the thing, boss. And so he starts untying and pulling like hell, and he's yanking. He thinks, well, this thing really won't come off. And I'm pushing my other foot, and the boot just actually right around the ankle just ripped off, and he come right off my foot. He thought he tore my foot off. And he stopped and just stared at me. I went, hit me with the son of a bitch. Don't just stare at me, Bill. And so anyway, if you'd have seen it, you'd have laughed your ass off. I mean, it shocked both of us. I went, what the hell? And so he goes, he took my loaded boot off all right. He thought my foot was still in it. But it was a classic. I've never seen that ever before.
How did you get involved in wrestling?
Oh, brother, I was born and raised in Humble, which is outside of Houston, Texas. And my friend of my dad's was kind of interested in it. They used to go watch Paul Bosch was a famous promoter, down at the Coliseum in Houston every Saturday night. And everybody at that time knew him, who that was. And so he was interested in trying to get into it. And I kind of went with them to watch the matches. And then he ended up doing some construction work for Tiger Conway Sr., Tiger Conway Jr.'s dad. And so one thing led to the other. And then my dad's friend, he didn't hack it, but I ended up getting into it. They didn't get me into it. They actually, that's how it started. And then I went even tried Lucha, which they had Lucha down south there, and a little bit. And then I left there and went to another guy, and it led from one trainer to the next. And finally, I got trained in a guy named Nick Kozak, was a referee for Paul Bosch. His brother, Jerry Kozak, was running spot shows and stuff for the Funks in Amarillo. That's when Dory was the world champion. And Terry, they were big deal. They owned their own territory, Amarillo. And so that was the first place Nick got me booked there. And then I got there, and that's how it got started. That's the first place it started for the Funks.
What was the training like in Amarillo? They were known for being pretty hardcore with their training.
Yeah, I lasted 2 weeks and they fired me, so I was too small. Yeah, that's what happened. So they wouldn't use me on TV. I just, it was a big man sport at the time. I'm sitting in the dressing room with Cyclone Negro, Abdullah the Butcher, Swede Hansen. All these guys are 360, 350, and I'm 17 and I weighed 189 pounds. And so they wouldn't even put me on TV, you know, but they'd use me for a few shows, but it went from there. But luckily, believe it or not, Abdullah the Butcher told me, I was telling him, you know, I was leaving once I got fired. And he said, you know, kid, if you really want to try it, he said, won't you write a letter to Dory Funk Jr.? And you know, and ask him, he said, he knows everybody. He's the world champion. He might can get you somewhere. And so I did. And if it wasn't for that, I guess Dory felt sorry for me. And at that time, Bill Watts was taking over Leroy McGuirk's territory.
Okay.
And what he had, and so I ended up going there because he was hiring anybody that could wear tights at the time. And I ended up going there and then getting on the sauce and getting bigger, and the story goes on and on, you know, different territories. But that's how it all gets started, you know.
Any memories of Terry Funk from those days, those early days?
I was, you know, they were in and out all the time, and I was only there 2 weeks. I do remember, you know, I've seen him in other territories because I kept working from there. Like I said, luckily I got booked, but Terry was just, he was going 100 miles an hour. And that was one of the days when he was really having some great matches, and his brother was the world champion. So where I was sitting at, boss, was I was like a job boy at the time. So I didn't get to associate too much with those guys unless I was just doing a job for them. So, but I've known Terry for, I mean, I don't know how many years now, you know, and I always liked Terry, but he was, I don't have any stories from those days back then exactly with Terry, because I was running with the younger guys and guys just trying to make it, you know what I mean? And Terry was on top all over the country. So I didn't really run with, or, you know, travel with him or do anything with Terry. I mean, Terry was, you know, as far as I knew, was one of the best workers in the business at the time, but I don't have any stories from that time era. I was just traveling, trying to make it, and I was with the underneath guys and trying to survive. And Terry was on top everywhere, so he flew everywhere. So I didn't know, man. I just, like any fan, I would see his matches and stuff. But I mean, I've known him all these years now, and you know, and Terry, and we're friends. And every time he sees me, he'll come in and go like this. He'll look at me and I said, Terry, cut that shit. He goes, Lynn Denton. Damn, where'd I know him from? Lynn, that's Roddy Amarillo. I go, you son of a bitch. He laughs and walks off, right? He still remembers me being there when I was 180 pounds, you know, little kid.
James Beard has a comment here. He says he loves you. Any memories of James Beard?
James Beard's a good fella, man. You know what? He's a really good guy. I don't know many people that don't like James Beard. He's always treated me right, and he's one hell of a referee too, man. You know,
definitely, and he's one of the matchmakers for SWE Fury now. You were there during their early days. Yeah. Did you have it? Did you have many interactions with the Spoiler over the years?
Well, I'll tell you, I was with when I was wrestling. I went from I went from to Bill Watts. I said Mid-South when he was in the early days when I was young, and then from there I went to Florida. And when I went to Florida, there was a guy, Killer Carl Cox and Don Jardine, the Spoiler. They were riding together every night, and so I got with those guys, and because Don was a mask guy, right? So he was kind of a quiet fellow, but he'd give you some advice, and Cox was everybody thought was insane, crazy, but maybe he was, but he had some good advice too about working. But as far as it goes to Jardine, we weren't together. Like, I was an underneath guy and he was on top guy. But I do remember one thing I'll tell you about. They taught me. I was wrestling in there. We were in I think it was Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I'd been in these shows, and they had me working with this guy. Now, in my mind, I was only 18 years old, right? The guy I'm working with, he's about 40, you know, so I was scared of him anyway on the shoot, for real. He didn't speak any English. He was good friends with Louis Tillette, which was the booker at the time. And I'm just trying to keep a job, man, you know. And so he had me putting this guy over, which is his friend, every night, which I don't mind putting a guy over, but I'm not kidding you. Every night I would get a busted nose, or I come back, my mouth bleeding, you know. And so one time This is in that show. I happened to ride with Cox and Don to the town, and so I worked with this guy, and he did it, and I just had it. I'd had enough, you know. I just I cracked, so I got up and locked up when he put his hands down. I just I didn't know if it was gonna work because I was just a kid, but luckily I nailed him right on the button and knocked his ass right out. Okay, he goes down, which was no big feat because he wasn't no giant or nothing, right? But I mean, he goes down, and now what was funny about it, Sonny Myers was a referee. I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy, but Sonny goes, Sonny all of a sudden starts going, harder, kid, kick the shit out of him. Because he had been watching these matches, okay, but not saying a word. And so I was so scared. Look, I got an arm bar. He goes, what are you doing? I go, shit. The guy comes to. I had to work it, finish it, and put the guy over. Because I'm so scared I'm going to get fired. When I got back, when I walked through the dressing room door, Cox grabbed me by the throat and slammed me against the lockers. It was high school. He said, you little chicken shit. He said, thank God you finally found some balls. Don't ever let nobody abuse you like that. You know, and he said, you don't belong in our business if you do it. But Jardine was right there with him. And on the way home with those guys, they really, you know, read me the right act and gave me a hell of an education. If you can't, you know, you can't take that and try to survive and be somebody in this business and take that from people. And so I learned a big lesson from Don and Carl and stuff like that. And, you know, so they helped me out. So he was a good guy, you know, but you know, that's the way the business is. Either you're made for it or you're not. You know what I mean?
You got a comment here from Dan Masters, the ring announcer at PCW Ultra. He says that he loved being produced by you in Portland and Vegas for TV. He appreciates your advice, and he hopes to catch up with you again soon. Maybe you can party, and he won't get fired, whatever that is.
Yeah. I remember him. Yeah. How you doing, buddy? Good to talk to you. Yeah. You know, you don't want to party and just get caught and get fired. Sometimes, but anyway, that happens, brother. Believe me. But you'll get another job. Don't worry about it.
There's a fan on here that would like to know if you have any crazy Iron Sheik or Andre the Giant stories.
The Sheik, I don't have much on, you know. I mean, I know how he was like everyone else, and I try to stay away from him. but Andre, I do, and this is one that when I tell people, I actually was just telling someone this the other day. It's to me, I couldn't believe it, and I love both these guys, but I couldn't believe how ego would get in people's way so bad. We're in a spot, you know. Andre would come in, you know, he's a novelty. And so, especially over there in Louisiana, they put him in these spot shows because these people, I mean, unless they get a ticket to go see him, they're never going to see him the rest of their life. And so it sells out. It packs the place, you know. The Giant's going to be there. So we go and we're in a 6-man tag. It was me, Dick Murdoch, and Orton Jr. against Junkyard Dog, Paul Orndorff, and Andre in a 6-man. In a spot show, it should be like a cakewalk. We got a night off. You know, but no, we go. And so we go out there and we do the spots. We get the bay faces over. And then, okay, it's time to get heat on someone. Now, think about this. Who would you pick? You pick, are you going to be Orndorff or Junkyard Dog or Andre? And so, well, I figured Paul because, you know, they're really pushing the shit out of Junkyard Dog. He's a key player here in the territory, right? He's a franchise guy. And so I said, well, I try to stop Paul. I nail Paul. He nails me back. I said, sell him. I hit him. I suplex him. He jumps up, suplexes me. I shoot him over the top, go throw him in the post. He picks me up, throws me. I go, fuck. I go, tag dog. So try dog, right? Can't get dog to sell. Finally, this is no kidding. Andre got so pissed because he was a good worker. I mean, psychology was. He goes, tag me in. Just like you hear him scream in the corner. They tagged him in, and I'm in the ring. He grabs me, and he says, boss, back me in corner, load the boot, and let me sell. I went, what the fuck? so I did. I kicked him, and he staggered out about 2 or 3 steps. And like that big old giant was, he goes, oh, he dropped to his knees, and he fell forward all the way down on his face. And can you believe that we got heat on the Giant and gave them a hot time? Wow. This is totally ass backwards. Okay, but when Andre came back, I could hear him chewing their ass out in the dressing room. He got all over him, which was bullshit. Ego got to him, you know. But I mean, golly, psychology-wise, brother, I could not believe it, you know.
Did you ever get the chance to drink with Andre?
Oh my God, brother, yes, I did. A lot of times, it was one particular time, you know, when he would fly into a place, if he liked you, you know, like he knew me and Murdoch, and he'd go, "I want Lenny to drive me," you know, because he knew I had a Lincoln or whatever. But not only that, he wanted you to. If he had to, he rent the car. He wanted you to drive him because you drinking partners. So Andre, me and Murdoch had been out drinking for the last 2 nights, and I was just hung over when Jackson, Mississippi, and that's where Andre flies in to start his 2 weeks. And I'm hung over as hell. And so I come out, and Andre's on the face side, and there's like a big open roll-up door between us where the fans are. So he, you know, back then it's kayfabe, and he looks at me like this. He steps back, he goes, "Boss, tonight, me and you," and he goes like this, right? and I'm waiting. I'm stretching out and fixing to ring the bell because I'm in the semi against Dog, and I'm like, oh my God, he's stiff as shit. I got a hangover, and he wants to go drinking again tonight. And I go, oh, I said, okay, boss, no problem. I came back, I took my shower and hauled ass back to Baton Rouge. And I went over to Black Bart's. He had a trailer rented across the thing here in Baton Rouge. And I didn't even go to my own apartment. Andre found me. Brother, he found me. I wish I never would have done that. He made me drink. He went to After Hours Club, and that last thing I remember, he was holding the mug, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't remember drinking it." I was about to fall out of the chair. He said, "Never run from me, boss man." Yeah, brother, he could drink, believe me. Oh, he'd kill you.
Now, speaking of Black Bart, how credible do you think he is in your opinion? You know him better than I do. I did an interview with him, and a lot of people were questioning some of the statements he made. What's your opinion on Black Bart?
You mean as far as his storylines and stuff, his stories he tells?
Yeah.
I tell you this, boss. Bart was with all the guys you're talking about. He worked with all of them. Now, I don't know. I mean, I heard all his stories. I don't know how far out he goes with them, but I know that he, as far as the talent, the Road Warriors, that he was in. He wrestled. He made trips with all of them, and he's been all those places he's talking about. No crap there. But I mean. But you know, Black Bart is like that's Black Bart, brother. What a character! Yeah, I love him to death. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know for an example of what you saying, but I know what you're asking me, and all I know is he was with all the talent he's talking about. I don't know if he exaggerates how bad things were or how small things were. Sometimes I don't know. You know?
There's a fan on here, Jack Jerry, wants to know why you never wrestled for WWE.
Oh, well, what happened was I'd been wrestling whenever Vince Jr. took it over, and he started shutting everybody down, and he started the WWF, right? I'd already been working about 16 or 17 years, okay? And so whenever he shut Don Owens down, which who I was booking for, I said, you know, we're going to close to 18 years, and I had 2 little girls. They were smaller, you know, and I'd been gone. I'd made trips all over the world already, and I told, I said, you know what? Whenever this is done, I'm going back to Texas, take my family, and because I want to see these girls grow up. And I know if I go to WWE, I'm going to lose this wife and my family too, just like the first one. Like I did on the road for 18 years. And I go, I ain't doing that bullshit again. So I go, and so then I went, and so then I was going to come home, and then Piper called me and says, hey, you know what? And he says, I always want to open a small business, and you're the only guy I trust my money with. He said, I trust my family with you. And he said, you name the business, I'll put the money up, we'll open it up. Stay here in Oregon. And I did, because they didn't want to move really. They'd been there so long. And so I go, well, so I stayed. I got 2 calls from Michael Hayes offering a contract and all that later down the road, and I turned them down because I gave Roddy my word that I would pay the place off and I wouldn't take off. But But that's why I never made it. That's why I never went.
What was the business that you and Piper were involved with?
A transmission automotive shop. We had an automotive shop, yeah. I was trying to, I seen so many guys like me that's all they did. I went right out of high school, never had a real job. I was a pro wrestler and got lucky enough to have enough talent to make it and made a living doing it. And at the end, they have 2 cents to rub together. You know what I mean? So I said, you know what? While I can, I'm going to get out and try to at least pay this place off. Maybe we can start a franchise. Maybe we can do, that's what, the big plan was. And then, and have something besides just nothing. You know what I mean? And so that's why I did that. I know I could have went to Vince and maybe, I could have broke my leg the first day I was there. Who knows? And I'd been put on the shelf. But I might have went there and made some good money. But then I'm never going to be home. And here I'm looking at my watch. I go, here we go again. Like I said, no, I'm gonna go a different direction. So that's why I never went.
How did you click so well with Roddy Piper that he would be close enough with you to trust you being business partners?
Me and Roddy was, I met him when I was 18. First time I met Roddy, and we just were in the same territories together. And I don't know, we just got to be friends and he trusted me and we went through a lot of things together. And he seen I would stand up to my word. If I gave him my word, I'd be there. And so I don't know. I know Roddy, whenever I was working for Roddy after we sold the shop and all that, the automotive shop, and I was just going around with him and he was making appearances. We went to England. We went all over the place. And when I quit him, it was when my first daughter had my first grandbaby. And he says, I packed my bags and we were in LA. We just got through doing one of those sci-fi conventions, right? And so the next day I was sitting in my room, my bags packed, because the next morning we're headed to England out of LA. So she called and says, Daddy, she's having a kid. So I go, you know what, honey, I'm on the way. And I rolled my bag down, knocked on Roddy's door. He went ballistic. You're quitting. We almost got into it. But then by the time it was over, he stops and looks at me. And this kind of guy Roddy was, he goes like this, Lenny, come here. Gives me a big hug, says, brother, you're right. Family comes first. Get your ass home and see that grandbaby. I said, love you, man. I'll see you. Grab my bag and haul ass. But that's kind of the way our shit went all the time. You know what I mean? Like that.
What was Roddy like to go out with when you would party with him? Was he as wild?
He was. Whenever it was younger, in the younger days, it was crazier than hell. You know what I mean? Whenever he was working for Vince, like when I was in Portland, he was always flying and he's back out, so he wouldn't have much time. Every once in a while, he'd go out. But yeah, he'd get pretty damn wild, boy. I remember being in Canada with him, working for the Tonys, and oh my God, Roddy doing crazy shit. He's constantly have you laughing though, but always doing something crazy,
Do you know his daughter Teal well? She's making her Texas debut next Saturday in Carthage.
Yeah, really? Well, see, I'm here in New York right now, and they say she's in town down the road. I'd like to see her because I was going to ask her. I mean, I never dreamed she would get into it, But I'd like to see her. Yeah, I knew her. She's a little kid.
She's starting for SWE, and I think it's going to be for more than just one shot starting next weekend. So,
well, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
You live in Houston now.
Yeah, I live in a town called Montgomery, Texas. It's about 50 miles north of Houston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite opponent over the years to be in the ring with?
Oh, boss, I had a bunch, but I'll tell you, I would say Rick Martel was such a good brother. What a night off, unreal. Rick Morton. Ricky Morton was good. Let's see, Ted DiBiase. We had great matches. Also, trying to think, Tommy Rich. We had great matches. Guys like that. There's a lot of them. I had good matches with Harley too, Harley Race. Hardy was like a really serious. I mean, you got to get down and dig, but he was really easy to work with. Easy.
Why did everyone say Harley was so tough?
Well, because some of the things he done, like he knocked the biker out. He wrestled in Portland, and there's some 2 or 3 bikers knocking him and sitting at ringside. And this is a shoot. Tommy Billington, Dynamite Kid told me. He was there. I wasn't there on this, but he says Harley he wrestled. He told him he kept giving him shit during the match. He tells the guys, hey, if you're so tough, wait till this is over. And when the people leave, just stay here. I'll make sure they don't throw you out. And let's see what you got. And so Hardy wrestled about 45 minutes. And then did the finish and went back, got his towel wiped off. Says, this guy still, is he ready? He said, okay, tell him to get in the ring. Hardy got in the ring. The guy come in. He dropped him, knocked him out right in one punch. Boom, got on. And, so he would do, he had some balls. And he wouldn't, he's a pretty tough fella, you know what I mean? But that's why, he was a man and he stood up for what he said, I never seen him get beat, but I'm sure, someone could beat him. But I'm just saying, I never seen him get beat,
John Falsetta says he remembers you well from World Class. What are your favorite memories of World Class?
World Class. I liked World Class. I liked the territory. Of course, it's Texas, of course, but we used to have some fun. There's a lot of good guys working there, and it was the Von Erichs. Sometimes it drove us crazy because they're always pulling shit and causing problems. But the territory was great, man. And all the guys working there, it was easy. They paid cash every night. You had to wait on a check. It was one of the boys. If you want to go to a party, it's one of the boys' territories, man. You know what I mean? It was made for the boys,
Yeah, it seems like the Von Erich boys did their fair share of partying.
Oh my God, brother. Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. But thing is, they were so well known and they were so well over, even though they couldn't work with the shit, they were so well over that they had a microscope on them, and so they didn't know how to handle that. They get caught doing everything.
There was a fan on here that said they saw you wrestle Goldberg. Is he ribbing me, or did you actually have a match with Goldberg at one point?
No, I worked with Goldberg. Yeah, I did.
How did that come about?
Well, I was okay. I was talking about the shot, right, with me and Roddy. So we were about 8 or 9 years in, and I already had the place down to where I knew I was going to pay it off. And so everybody, that's when they started doing the switch over to WCW, and everybody was getting these big contracts. Of course, I'm still in the business. I know everybody, and they're calling me, Lenny, you need to come get some of this gravy, boy. These guys are handing out contracts. What are you doing sitting on your ass at the damn transmission shop, And so I decided, well, hell, maybe I'll see what they'll do. And I went over. This threw me, man. I went there, and I've been working. I told you how long, 17 years, 16. I went over and they go, okay, you got this is your tryout match. I'm going to try out. I started laughing. I said, hey, first of all, I was in the business before all you guys were telling me I got to try out. So that's okay. That's what we do nowadays. I go, okay. And thank God they gave me Eddie Guerrero. I said, brother, that's another one I should have mentioned earlier. I couldn't have got a better guy to work with. I mean, he's like, and so I went, this is my tryout match, Eddie Guerrero. I said, thank you. And so we had a hell of a match. So then Bischoff coming to me says, okay, we're going to sign you for 2 years, give you $150 a year. And I know you have the transmission shop. You only have to work like 10 days a month. I went, serious? I said, where's the paperwork? Said, holy shit, dude. Let's get it done. So I was all happy with it, but it didn't come through. It didn't happen. So I don't know what happened. I still don't know who said what or whatever. But after about a month, and they still said they're getting things together, I finally went to Terry Taylor and I said, hey, brother, I got a family over there. I got a business. I said, somebody needs to get off shitter and just get something going. Or, I can't just keep flying from one place to the next, and all that. So he goes, and then after that, I got a notice that this is your last booking. And so, but before that, I went to TV, and they had me on an off TV match. To answer your question, I got way off. I'm sorry. It's an off TV match, and so I'm talking. This I don't know who this guy was. A guy, maybe he's a black fella, but he was huge. I ain't never seen a guy this big. He was, like 6'7", but he was ripped. And I don't know where he's like from Nigeria or something. I don't know who he was. I haven't seen him again. So they said, I'm working with him. I said, oh, shit. So I set him down. He's a really nice guy. And I said, well, let's talk this over. This guy's going to kill me out here accidentally, right? All of a sudden, Jimmy Hart comes up and taps me on the shoulder and goes, hey, they need to talk to you down here. I said, who does? Kevin Sullivan. I said, oh, okay. I knew what was coming. And that's when Goldberg was on that streak where he was beating so many people. I went, oh, you got to be kidding. I said, okay, here we go. So I went down there, and Goldberg sitting in a chair. And they go, listen, we went. I said, okay. And so that's how that happened, And so I went out there. It's like a squash job. I jumped him, bam, bam, bam. Here we go, jackhammer. Or do the spear, the jackhammer, and away we go,
Would you imagine back then that he'd still be main eventing pay-per-views all this time later?
No, I did. I thought he was, after he quit there, got whatever happened when he took off from WWE. I figured that was the end of it. When he started doing the movies and trying to do the other things. But now I didn't think he'd be back. But I didn't think he needed the money to come back. But I don't know.
Apparently, it's $3 million a year for 3 matches a year plus bonuses. So.
No, yeah, that's not too bad. Boss, I was in Kansas City when I did that. I think it was Kansas City, and I'm not exaggerating. They had like an 18-wheeler rig, and they said, man, they had sold out of T-shirts of his that night, and they had like half of that pack with his. I said, they sold all that shit. I couldn't believe it. So I don't know what he makes on merch too. Unbelievable, right? Damn.
It's also an issue that they don't have any new stars, so they have to use guys like him that were older, that were over in previous eras.
Yeah, they did that with Piper and all Snooker, all those guys forever, trying to build up other guys, But yeah, they need to definitely get some. One thing that it's I don't know what you think about this, but I think I just wonder how this will work now. I know when I was working on top in the business, when I was on top, that we got paid by how many tickets were sold. Now they get paid off the TV revenue. How much money do you think they'd make if they had to go back to that with some of the talent they have now?
Okay. We lost money on house shows before COVID the last couple of quarters. So
that's what I'm saying, so
they don't have to draw anymore.
The guys used to actually draw money. I'd average $3,000 a week in the 80s. Yeah. We would actually draw that much money. Well, we had to draw a lot of money to make that, and that was a good territory. Mid-South was on fire, but it took a lot of good workers and a lot of guys. And, I don't know how that would work today, if they could do that or not. I don't know.
Do you think they'd be breaking kayfabe as much if they had to get paid off the house?
Hell no, they'd be protecting the business. Or they'd starve to death. Because they want that to me the most that they possibly can, because that's why, people say, brother, hey, I've had guys, I've had guns pulled on me 2 different times. People try to cut me. Man, they believed it. And you had to be a good enough worker to make them believe it. But I'm just saying, I wish there was 10 million more like that, because I'd have made a lot more money, But that's the way it was back then. But everything changes, I understand. I just wonder if they'd be able to feed their family on what they drew. Then they'd be really concerned about getting over. Like you got to get over instead of different things they do on there now. But I don't know, because they make money from a lot of different places now. Like, hell, we didn't even get merchandise money. When I was a heel, the baby faces did. Now, if you met a nice baby face, they give you a little cut of it, but not many of them,
There's a fan on here watching from Oregon, and he says, any crazy stories from the Portland territory?
Oh, yeah, man. Golly. All kinds of crazy stories from there. I tell you, the one that I always love to tell is the one about Don Owens, right? The old promoter. But he wasn't one hell of a payoff guy. He was a good player. But when I first went there, being from Texas, and he's from Oregon, he'd go, oh, this Texas loudmouth Texan, all this bullshit. And he comes up here and thinks he knows everything. He said, hell, I never had a booker. And so he said, now this is the first booker I ever hired. And so when he'd pay us, he'd be back in his office after the show, and all the boys would be sitting there, and every week he'd go, yeah, I hired this son of a bitch over here, and he ain't sold the place out once. Roddy Piper and Jimmy Snuka, they used to sell it out. I go, that was 10 years ago, Don. I said, I've only been here about 4 weeks. Well, hell, you said all I heard was good things about you. You're going to do this, do that. Every week he didn't sell out. He didn't sell out. Finally, I got enough of that shit. I said, you know what, Don? I said, I tell you what, you let me do what I want to on TV. You don't let your son Barry stop me. You don't interfere. And I said, you give me, I said, give me 6 weeks on TV, and I'll sell this place out. And I said, if I don't sell it out, then you don't owe me shit. I'll get up and I'll leave and go back to Texas where I belong. He got up and shook my hand in front of the boys. And I was like, I'm thinking seriously. And when I was thinking seriously, I might have bit off more shit than I could chew here. But he didn't. He didn't bother me. And I did it. And luckily, it sold out and turned away people, right? Oh, Don was so pissed. I've never seen a promoter be pissed when the place sold out. He was mad because he lost bad. And I couldn't wait to finish my shower, get over there. And I was rubbing that shit in big time to Don, man. And he was mad as hell because it's so. I said, what are you mad about? He goes, well, I think it turned away like 600 or 700. There's 700 people ain't never going to come back. I go, you got to be shitting me. I said, well, if you were a smart promoter, you might have gave him like a comeback ticket or something, like you get half off. Kiss my boy, he started cussing me. Kiss my ass, Lenny. But yeah, I love this. I love always telling that story about Don because he got so mad. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff that happened there in Portland, though, man. But it was a good territory. I liked working it.
Rick Brooks wants to know if you ever worked with Buzz Sawyer and what were your thoughts on him. He was known as a bit of a crazy guy as well.
Yeah, I worked with Buzz Sawyer, and we were friends. I don't know why this is, but it seems like everybody that was crazy like Buzz Sawyer, for some reason, liked me. I go to church and I go, all of a sudden the guy wants to be my friend, the psycho, right? And so, but Buzz, a lot of times he worked that bullshit, but he would get crazy. But I remember one time him and Matt Bourne, right? This is back before I was even the grappler, and he had Buzz had this big wrestling background from high school and college or whatever, and Matt did too, and they teamed them up in Charlotte, North Carolina, for the Crockett's. I was working there, and they kept hurting guys, in tag matches. They had them tag, and they kept hurting. Everybody was like, man, these guys, this shit and that shit. And so we were working, me and Sweet Hansen. You know what I'm talking about? Sweet Hansen? Yeah. Sweet used to be an ex-pro boxer back in his day. And so they worked with Sweet and somebody the night before and hurt his partner. And so this night we're in Raleigh, and it was one of those towns. Anyway, it was me and Sweet in a tag, and Sweet is over there, and he started taping his hands up like a boxer. And I'm looking at him, and he calls the referee over, Tommy Young. He goes, hey, you go over and you tell them two greenhorn bastards just for me, okay? If they hurt Lenny or they hurt me with any of that bullshit they've been doing out there, all that suplexing or whatever they think they're doing, he said, I'm going to knock not just one, both the son of a bitches out, okay? And he kept taping his hands up. And I tell you, within 10 minutes, they were both over there going, hey, Sweet, buddy, look, you okay, man? Like, apologizing to Sweet. That's their yeah. They didn't want to mess with him. But see what I mean? It's like all of a sudden they weren't crazy no more. They do that else to get knocked out, right? And so that's what I'm saying. And sometimes they work that crazy stuff because they get away with it, you know.
John wants to know what was in your loaded boot.
Well, I've heard everything in the world. The best one I ever heard was this, and I went, damn, you know, that might work. I don't know. This guy come out one time and he goes, Grappler, you son of a, I know what you got in that boot. He said, you got mercury, and when you tap that toe, it warms up and all the mercury goes to one end, and then you knock the hell out of Junkyard Dog. I go, damn, that's a pretty good one. But actually, the only thing in that boot was my foot. Okay, there was nothing. On the outside is the big heel. On the inside is the other one. So I'm walking level, whether you know it or not. They're just heavier than hell. You got to keep your legs in shape to carry them around. But it got heat. It was a good gimmick.
Rick Brooks says that Jake the Snake says he invented the DDT while working a match with you. Can you confirm this story?
Yeah, we've been doing this back and forth for years. I'll tell my story again. And Jake will say, oh, that fat bastard's lying, all this. But here's what happened. I was working in Mid-South. Bill Watts was like this. I came in under the hood as a grappler, and I was his wrestling heel. Okay, but wrestling, he said, at the top of the marquee says professional wrestling, so we're going to give them wrestling on the card, and that's from you, Lenny. He said, now, the top got, you know, Hayes and Gordy, the Freebirds, Junkyard Dog, and Robley, all them guys. They're the furniture movers. They do all the gigging and all the shit. And, you know, but I need somebody that's going to be a wrestler, so that's your job. So he told me, I don't want you to go less than 30 minutes. No less, regardless of what match you're in. And so, you know, it's hot. We're in Lake Charles, Louisiana. It's hot as shit. And we don't went about 30 minutes. And we both, what happened is, I was working a thing where Jake would do a high spot and he'd go back to the front face lock, get me back down. And then another spot, I'd get my way out of it, and he'd grab the front face lock and back. So he went to grab that front face lock, and we both slipped and we fell. And it went boom. I mean, it's an accident. But the crowd popped so loud, I went, damn, did you hear that? Oh, let's try it again. So I called the spot out of it. This time he really worked it, and boom, and it popped. And so I said, Jake, we did it for 3 or 4 more nights, different shows until we got. I said, save that for TV. I said, man, you need to use that for a finish. That looks too impressive. And he goes, okay. And then he did, and he named it, started using it, and named it the DDT, and he took it from there. But that's my version, okay? Now, Jake sure is going to say he thought of it all by himself, and that's what he does, but that's what happened. It was a total accident. You know?
Now, I don't know if you were married or not through most of your years as a wrestler, but I know Texas had a lot of groupies. Did the mask affect your ability to get those groupies at all, since you had to maintain your identity?
I'll tell you what, brother. Okay, now I don't think I've ever told this one. Okay, here's the thing. Especially when me and Tony, like Grappler too, were partners, but even before, but when I was just a grappler. But we used to go like this. This is how bad it affected me. Okay, I would go wrestle, and then as soon as we come back, the big thing about wrestling is like in those days, your tights better be clean. You better not stink when you come in that ring, because that's what we do for a living every night. So if you come in there, you get your ass whooped in the dressing room for smelling bad, like your tights are not clean or whatever. So as soon as we come in, yank the tights out of the bag, wash them in the sink or with soap, and hang them up and let them dry. That's the first thing you do. Put your beer on your ice, da-da-da. So we do that almost every night, right? And so we come in and get the tights, and Tony go, I got the beer, put the cheese in the window for the rats. And so I take my loaded boot and put it in the window of the hotel, and they drive around and see that boot, knock on the door. Every night, put the cheese out for the rats, Lenny. I take that big old boot, stick it in the window. That's where the grapplers are. Every night.
And I guess you keep the mask on, I guess.
No, well, not all the time. Not all the time.
I guess you didn't have to worry about cell phone cameras back then.
No, you didn't, brother. Oh my God! If we did, I'd really been in trouble.
What were some of the things you did to keep your identity a secret?
Well, I would do, of course, when you try to leave a town, not let nobody catch you, go to a different store when the other guys go to get gas or beer or whatever you're doing, all that normal kind of stuff. But we're on the road so like every day almost back then when I was doing that really heavy. And so the people, they couldn't, it was like you're saying, it wasn't like now. It wasn't like, hell, there's no way you can do it nowadays. I don't know how you would, unless you wore it 24/7, hell, somebody would catch you. You know what I mean? But back then it was easier to do. You know what I mean?
Michael Collins says Raven has spoken highly about you as a mentor. Do you keep in touch with him, and do you feel responsible for any of his success?
I don't keep it that close in touch with him, but every now and then I hear from him. But he came in and me and Piper actually put him on the show and tested. He did a good job. And I tried my best to help him out. And he was hard to get to at first because he had such an ego. But then he learned, and he changed a lot. He changed a whole lot. And then he started getting good at what he does.
There's a fan on here that wants to know, in your opinion, who are some of the guys Greg Gagne could have beat in a shoot?
Could have beat in a shoot?
Yeah.
Well, he still couldn't beat his dad. What I'm saying, he was, I tell you, I worked with Greg Gagne one time, and that was in St. Louis, and it was in a tag. I never was around him. I don't think he was a big shooter. Not by any of the guys in Minnesota that I know told me, like Rick Rude and Scott Norton and the Road Warriors and John Nord were all friends of mine. I don't think he could have taken none of those guys. And so I don't really know many guys that could. I know one thing. When I went in the ring in St. Louis, I went like this. And I was only joking, but I was just messing with Tony. I thought the guy would laugh. And that's when him and Brunzell with the flying or jumping, whatever, something, right?
Yeah, the high flyer.
And so then I go like this. I said, what is the guy that Lawler dropped on his head? Andy Kaufman. I said, so they go to ring the bell, and I kind of threw my hands and come on, I'm going to fight. I told the referee, get this Andy Kaufman looking bastard away from me. A joke. He got so pissed. He wanted to fight me. I said, calm down, motherfucker. It's a joke. I don't like you calling me that shit. Of course, we called him that the rest of the match then, both of us. But yeah, he didn't like me saying that. But that's the only kind of thing I've ever that's the only time I was around him really much. That one little thing in St. Louis.
Dan Masters is back here. He wants to know if you have any memories of Ole Anderson.
Of Ole? Yeah, I know that piece of shit. Yeah. No, Ole was a hard ass on everybody, man. And he was the same way. He was the same way with me too. Everybody. He didn't give nobody a break. Him and Watts screwed me over. Watts got pissed because I worked a show for my dad in Texas, and it was close to where his TV came in. And so I'm leaving, going there to Charlotte, and they made this big story up about they were going to give me a push in Charlotte. And then Ole starved me out of there. All kinds of things. He's getting stories from everybody you talk to, and none of them's good. But yeah, Ole was he was a one of a kind, man. I laughed my ass off one time because we had, like in Texas now, the big snowstorm. They had one like that in Atlanta, Georgia, right? And I'm working there, and every Monday we used to go get our check, and that's when he worked for Barnett, Chip Barnett. And so, and Ole was the booker, and he goes, so everybody, they couldn't go get their check. It snowed so bad you couldn't drive over there. And so he goes, so like I think it was like Tuesday or Wednesday, we made some show. We're doing a show and a spot show. And he said, hey, did you get your check? You guys go by Monday, to get your check and stuff like that? Because it was locked up. So yeah, we went by a couple of them and said, they had a note out there that said, pick up your checks on the show Wednesday. But it was written in the snow, and it was in Barnett's piss and Ole's handwriting. That's how much the boys thought I owe you, okay?
That's funny.
Yeah.
How is it in Houston now, anyways? Is it any better?
Yeah, it's clearing off now. Yeah. It's just that the water, you got to boil the water and all this. I don't know what to deal with the water issue, but everything was screwed. That screwed everything up. And then they're coming down on them about the electrical grid wasn't even up to date, hadn't been up to date for 100 years. But they've been really taking all the taxpayers' money, charging the hell out of everybody. So I don't know, man, what's going to come down on that. But everything's going back to normal now. Yeah.
Oh, I'm coming back there next week, so I hope it's better.
Yeah, it should be. On the plane today, they were going, guys, can I get a Coke? Well, we don't have Coke. We're out of Coke. All this stuff. So we're out of a lot of stuff because Houston just had a bad week. That's what they said. We got deliveries on nothing. So by the time you go, it'll be probably straightened out. Yeah.
Ivan Santos wants to know how was working with Bruiser Brody.
Stiff. But no, Frank was a good friend of mine. But Frank was this type of guy. You're going to get hit hard. And if you don't like it, then you're in the wrong business, the way he looked at it. One time I remember Frank, we're on Dallas on TV. And they said, well, you got Brody. Brody was the booker. So he goes, you got me tonight. I go, let me guess, Frank. Shoot him in. Big boot to the fucking head. 1, 2, 3. I drop the leg. 1, 2. He goes, you got it. And so he goes off, right? And so I'm sitting there thinking, so, I know what's going to happen. Frank's just going to beat the hell out of me and then pin me. I said, hell with this, because I ain't never seen nobody do that. I don't know what made me think I could do this, but Frank come in, they rang about. I attacked Frank, locked up, went back in the corner, and I chopped him like 5 times as hard as I could. And back then I was in pretty good shape, hard as I could in the chest. He's looking at me like, what is wrong with this fucking guy? So finally he knocks the shit out of me. He's blocking, hit me, and he gets a headlock and took me over. And he said, call high spot. And he wrestled a match with me like he was a guy my size. And he went ahead and had the match. We did high spots. And then when I come to the back, he goes, you know why I worked with you? Because you had balls enough to stand up. Everybody else just lays down. That's the way Frank was right there.
How did you take his death when you heard about that tragedy that took place?
Oh, brother, I hated it. Just like everybody, I hated it. But I know how Puerto Rico was. And, it's like it's kind of their own country, So, I mean, I don't know the whole situation was going on around that deal, but I sure did hate, because Frank was a friend of my dad's. He knew my dad before he knew me, and we were friends, and we weren't real close, but I hate to see anything happen like that to a friend of mine, But that was the shits, I thought, I know his wife was his wife he left, and she's so nice and so friendly, it's like, I hate to see that happen.
She's too nice, unfortunately, to fight very much for justice, though. She probably could have fought a little harder for justice. But
yeah.
Who knows? You have a female fan watching, Tracy. She wants to know if you ever wrestled in Hawaii for Leah Maivia.
Yeah, I did. I wrestled a bunch of times. Actually, I was a Hawaiian heavyweight champion one time, but let's see, I forget what year it was, and then me and Tony went over there and we wrestled tag team together, the Grappler too, a bunch of times. I wrestled in the Hula Bowl in Hawaii when they, with the Japanese office and stuff like that. And a lot of times I worked for Leah.
A few people have been asking if you ever wrestled in Japan.
Yeah, I wrestled 3 different tours. 2 for Inoki and 1 for a company called Wings.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Victor Quiones ran that, I think.
Yeah, Victor. Yeah, I got some heat because I was supposed to go to Korea, but I didn't go. I had a thing come up with my old lady, of course, and so I had to go home.
Karma wants to know if you have any Billy Jack Haynes stories. He's always a popular subject on this channel.
Oh, I know, brother. Yeah, me and Billy, we worked a lot together. I tell you, it was one that yeah, I laughed, but it wasn't funny at the time. But I'm working with him in a match, and me and Billy in Portland at Sports Arena, and he takes me and he slams me, and I'm looking around. I don't see where most guys slam me, and they call, okay, what's the knee, what's the elbow, what's the whatever, right? But he just all of a sudden, look, I can't find him. So I start to get up like this in my right elbow, as I got, and I lean to my left hand. I start standing up, and he was coming off with a punch off the top rope, and my elbow caught him right in the mouth and knocked his front teeth out. And he rolls over. He rolls over into the corner, and I look at him like that. And he sits down. He looks at me, and I swear he looked like a pumpkin. He had no two front teeth were missing, a big old cut on my elbow. And so we go and finish the match, and then he's all pissed. I said, I didn't mean to do it. You should have told me what you're doing. I didn't even see you coming. So I was in a hurry, of course, to go out drinking. And I just washed it off with soap. What a mistake that was. My elbow was huge the next day. I had to go and get, oh, man. That's the worst thing in the world, too, but a bite from somebody or something like that. I learned that lesson heavy. God, you want to go immediately and get a shot or get something, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, that was kind of a thing that happened, and a lot of different things. And Billy, we worked a bunch of times around there, you know, all over. I worked a lot with him in Florida too.
Now he says himself that he was a big time drug dealer back then. Is that him telling stories, or do you actually believe that he was a drug dealer on the side?
He might have done some of that, but I don't. I mean, I never seen it. I did it, and I didn't ever see any drugs with him, and I didn't ever see him heard of him selling any either. You know. And I'll be honest, I ain't no angel. I probably would have known. You know what I mean? So I didn't hear nothing. You know, I don't know.
Dynamite Kid was also popular in the Oregon territory. Did you have much contact with him over the years?
He was. I met him over in Europe, in Germany. That's the first time I met him. He'd already worked Portland, I guess, and then we got to be friends over there. And then I went to Calgary to work for Stu Hart, and was there about a year, and then Dynamite was in and out of there. And yeah, it was that was the relationship I had. Then after that, I seen him we're in Japan together one time, and that was it. That was it, you know.
What was he like in those days? Was that before he kind of became a bully, or was he still pretty reserved when you knew him?
No, he was. I mean, I always respected him. He didn't fear anybody, and he was a good athlete, stayed in shape. And I mean, I never was around him trying to bully somebody really. You know, I mean, he stood up for me before when guys were like trying to pull something they shouldn't, and we always got along. I mean, you have to judge somebody by the way they treat you. That's what I do. So I mean, I know. I heard stories about him too. I don't sound like the guy I knew, you know, but I don't know. You know.
Were you ever attacked by fans?
Oh yeah, you know. Well, actually, with Dynamite, we had a couple riots over there in Canada, and over there they ain't got much security, and you're on your own, boy. I remember one time. This is no bullshit. It was at Red Deer, Canada, and they start hitting the ring, and I'm like, damn, we're just trying to get to the dressing room, and we're trying to keep people back, and we finally get to it, and we're holding the door. There's no security. We're holding the door with our shoulder, and it's like you see in the movie, like they're trying to knock the door down, and they keep boom and boom. We're holding the door, and finally, I said, Dynamite goes, I swear he went like this. Hey, Mike. I said, what? He goes, we got to go back out there. He said, we forgot to challenge him for next week. I went, fuck you, dude. I ain't going back out there. Finally, they quit kicking at the door and left, and we got out of there. But yeah, I've had a lot of that. Back in the day, they would. You never know what's coming at you, you know. And the security, it wasn't that good, you know. Just guys that get hired for nothing.
Yeah, well, on Stampede, I highly doubt they ever paid for security unless the arenas made them.
Sure, no, man, Stu. Oh God, it's crazy.
I wrestled there too.
Oh, did you?
There's a fan asking who's tougher, Texas or Japan wrestlers. I'll say Texas.
Texas or Japanese wrestlers?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I know that what I didn't appreciate was this: they take you, in Japan, and you put you on the bus, make you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and drive all day, and then you get out and go wrestle, and you sit in the bus, and sometimes don't even get stopped for food, and they have to wrestle and all that. When the other guy, you get there, the guys are already there. I mean, they took care of the Japanese guys, but the Americans, like, they run them ragged, expect them to, compete just as hard as those guys. But as far as the toughest guys, I don't know. I would think, of course, I'm American. I'd say Texas, right? But I'm sure there's plenty of tough Japanese guys.
Lewis wants to know if you have any stories about Adrian Street.
Not too much about Adrian. I never worked with him much at all. I mean, I've seen him on different shows, but I never was around him with that. I know his gimmick and all that stuff, but no, we never even traveled together once that I know of. I don't remember.
Did you ever work with Ric Flair?
Yes, yeah. I did a thing with Ric Flair, but my big thing with Rick was I drove Rick for a year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're alive to tell about it.
Yeah, well, what happened was he lost his driver's license when I was in Charlotte, and they told him, go pick one of those rookies to drive you. And for some reason, he picked me, which was God blessing because, I got to drive with him and listen and get, like they were priming him for the world title at the time. He wasn't the world champion yet, but he was drawing like hell. So I was in every show I went to was sold out. And I was on like the first match, and then I get to talk. I'd ask, pick Rick's brain about interviews and all these kinds of things while I was young, and he really helped me come along, into business. It helped me a lot,
What do you think about this claim that he's had sex with 10,000 women that he makes? Is that possible? From driving with him a year, what on average in a day would he have sex with in a year?
Brother, I was with him for a year, and he was like everything was moving too fast. I mean, I didn't stay in his room. I'd have my own room, and I remember times when we go back to the room, he had 2 girls with him, and I'd say, hey, we're drinking, and I'd take off back to my room or whatever. So I don't know if he nailed both of them or not, but I know he had no problem in that area, but I don't think 10,000 or 100,000 or whatever he's saying.
Is he just that charming that like he'll walk into a store, a restaurant, and like he'll be able to pick a girl up right away?
It didn't hurt this money he was spending too.
Oh, of course.
That round for everybody here, right?
Yeah, that'll attract them for sure.
Yeah.
Arturo wants to know your thoughts on Gino Hernandez.
Yeah. Well, Gino was a very good worker, good talker. He had everything it took. He really did get caught up in the drug thing, that was Gino's problem, He had more on it. He was making more money. That wrestling was a secondary thing to him. He didn't care if he's booked or not. He just did it for fun, but he was very good at it, if he wanted to think about it and do it, but he wasn't planning on making a living being a wrestler. Gino wasn't.
I don't know if you ever wrestled Lanny Poffo or not, but there's a couple of fans on here asking if you ever saw him do his little party trick that he used to do in the dressing rooms from time to time.
One time and I almost threw up. Oh my God, that's sick. Yeah, I wrestled Lanny Poffo, Macho Man's brother. And then I seen his trick one time in Louisville, Kentucky, and I went, you got to be kidding me. I couldn't believe it. I said, hey, fuck that. That's sick shit, man.
He just does it, like he just whips it out in the dressing room.
Yeah. That's going to get over, brother.
Were you ever a baby face at all, or were you mostly always a heel?
No, I've worked baby. When I first started, I was, but I looked a lot different. I was young, but even once I got to where I knew how to work and stuff, but I just, no matter what I do, I can't get over his baby face. I am a shitty baby face. I was made to be a heel, okay? Because, I mean, they can give me the biggest push in the world. People go, yeah, but yeah, okay, whatever. I don't know why. No matter what I do, you know, I don't even feel good doing it. You know what I mean? That's just not me, you know? I'd rather be out there thinking the match a different way, you know?
Do you have any advice for heels out there? Because I know a lot of wrestlers watch these interviews.
Well, it's okay to, you know, you need to know all the stuff, the bumps and the holes and all. But the main thing about it's the psychology, the reason why, okay, one thing I used to do is this, and this used to go a long ways. I'd go, if I'm working with you tonight, or I'm working with this guy over here, I would look at you and go, okay, well, what attributes has he got? What can I make shine? What can I take advantage of? I know he does well, and he automatically will do it good. So, okay, let's see. So I'll start there. What do I need to stay away from that he don't do with shit? What do I do? What do I do that I don't do good? I should stay away. So I build that around the match. Now I work with Andre a different way than I work with you. I work with you a different way I work with Junkyard Dog because y'all got something different, right? So, but have matches like that, use your brain psychology instead of just go, okay, we got to go out and do this hot spot, that hot spot. Wait a fucking minute. This guy's 6'6". I'm 5'10". I don't think I should be throwing him around like that. It don't make no sense. If we're in the street, that would happen. Right. Let's try to half-ass, you know, fool the people. Let's don't just, you know, like if they came here to see acrobats, hell yeah. But let's try to make it look like he's real anyway. So they go, hey, that motherfucker really did throw him at that. Or, you know, he did this, or like, you know, say it's your size, okay? If I wanted to stop you, hurt you, I'm going to walk up and just punch you, expect you to fall down. You know, right. I hate to do something where you're not looking. I'd cheat my ass. I'll hit you in the nuts or something. Okay, now, motherfucker, right? Like that, right? They don't think that. They think, well, just do the same old thing. You got to work. You got to figure what you're working with. You know what I mean? And go from there. You know.
There's a bunch of fans on here that are asking about your tag team with the Dirty White Boy when he was the second grappler.
Yeah. Well, Tony. We were the grapplers first, and then after that, Jimmy Hart. We left Memphis territory, and then they wanted to bring us back, and they said, "Hey, Jimmy Hart came up with this idea of the Dirty White Boys," and so we did that gimmick for a while. Then went to Louisiana with it for a while. Then back to the grapplers again. Just anything to keep ourselves booked, you know.
Did you ever work for Bill Watts? I know you worked for Leroy.
Oh, yeah, Mid-South. That was Bill Watts, yeah.
What was the difference between the two bookers there?
Bill Watts and who? Oh, you mean like when?
Like at first it was Leroy, then Leroy McGuirk, then it seemed Bill Watts took over.
Well, Leroy was from old school, right? And whenever he was there, when I went in the first time, it was Jody Hamilton, the assassin, was a booker. Watts was a part owner, half owner, and Leroy on the other half. That's for Watts on the whole thing. The first time I went in, it was Jody Hamilton. The second time I went in, it was Buck Robley. When I went in, they made the grappler gimmick, you know. That's how they got started with Robley.
You trained a lot of wrestlers over the years too, didn't you?
Yeah, saw me. I trained a bunch of guys, but different guys, yeah.
Is there anyone that you're most proud of training that you consider kind of a protege?
Well, the one guy, but he went to Oregon, and he stayed his whole career with Don Owens for like 5 or 6 years, and then he quit and got out. This guy named Joey Como, who wrestled as gorgeous Joey Jackson. He was very, very good worker, and it still is. And then I tell you who I was asking a friend of mine about tonight was Colton, Roddy Piper's boy. I trained him. And you know, but I don't know. I guess he's not pursuing it anymore, and I haven't heard of him. So I'm wondering, you know.
Well, I actually interviewed Teal, of course, recently. Yeah. We were just talking about, and she said he kind of didn't go the positive route when Roddy passed away. It kind of took away some of his motivation.
Yeah.
the goals he was going after.
Yeah. I don't know. I tried to call him, honestly, a few times. He calls me Uncle Lenny, okay? I tried to call him and text him, and it was very strange he hasn't answered me back. You know? It makes me worry about him, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, when I see his sister next week,
Please ask her to tell him to get in contact.
Yeah, I will.
I
will bring that up for you.
Thank
Greg wants to know if you were ever around the original Sheik.
Yeah, well, I was some in Hawaii. One time in Hawaii, was there, for a week when we're doing shows together. I was with him some in Houston with Paul Bosch, but never on the road or anything like that. You know, because he was just in and out.
Fonzie wants to know if you ever wrestled the Junkyard Dog.
Fonzie from Florida?
I think it's just a fan that's using the name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wrestled the Junkyard Dog many times. Yeah, I sure did, many times.
How was he in the ring? I know he was over like crazy, but a lot of people say he was.
There's a perfect example right there, bosses. Dog, you know, he had his things he could do good, but he wasn't a great worker. But he was over like $1 million. So you take advantage of his good points and you stay away from his bad ones, okay? And so that's how you work a match with him. And when I had Dog, I'd go like, oh shit. Some people go start pulling teeth. They go, okay, I know it's gonna be harder. It wasn't like working with Rick Martel or somebody like that, but you could have a good match. I remember Dog, whenever I've seen matches on tape, he was laying the clotheslines in so hard, he shot me in, and I come running, and you see me turn where he hit me in the back. So I figured he's going to catch me in the jaw and knock me out. I told him to do a spin in the air like that before I get to him, because I know at least he ain't going to knock me out. He was hitting so hard I couldn't take it no more. I go, damn, brother, loosen up, you know. But, you know, I always got along with him. He go, oh, sorry, brother. Half of it did. You could tell it wasn't like malicious. He wasn't trying to hurt you. It's just he was just all wound up. I go, calm down, brother. You know, because the people are all going nuts. You know, started. But yeah, it wasn't a day off. Believe me. But you know what? You made money with the guy. You know.
Trev Clark wants to know how you came up with the name the Grappler.
Well, I was in Charlotte at the time whenever the Flair thing, you know, and then every now and then Flair would go, well, he's flying out of town and stuff like that, so I'd be on my own. And I was riding with a fellow named Don Cornoodle. He was a worker, Don Cornoodle, and and he was a big Greco-Roman wrestler and all that in college, and he was really good. But Don was funny as hell, and we were good friends. And we were just riding, you know, back from a show one night, and he goes, we were talking about, you know, if I ever get a break, if I ever get, you know, and wrestling, he goes, I like to wear a mask one day, he says. And he goes, I said, would you say? I said, I never did. I did a little bit, but I don't like it that much. He goes, well, I said, what would you call yourself? He said, I'll call myself the Grappler, because the Grappler in Greek means wrestler. I go, really? So the next day I get a call from Buck Robley in Louisiana. He goes, we need a wrestler here. We need a wrestling heel. We heard you're a wrestling heel. I said, yeah, I am. He goes, and we heard you wear the mask. I said, yeah. He goes, what do you call yourself? I went, the Grappler. That's exactly, I just remember what he said. That's exactly how it started. I said, he goes, that's a pretty good name. Okay, we'll call you the Grappler. And he said, so they give me a starting date. He said, I'll call Crockett because you're just doing jobs over there anyway. And so that's how that all happened. And Don Cornoodle still tells me when he sees me, you owe me so much money in residuals for stealing my name, boy. He still tells me that.
You were the booker in Portland for a while, weren't you?
Yeah. Whole time I was there, 5 years. Yeah.
How did you get that role? Was that off of the story you told earlier, where you ended up selling out the house and then they just kept you going?
I was booking. I booked for Harley Race and Bob Geigel, and Bob Geigel was a good friend of Don Owens and Harley Race, and so I went to when I was done for Fritz over in Dallas, right? I'd been there about a year, and it was time for me to go. And so Cuban Assassin Dave Sierra, he's a good friend of mine. He was working up there, and we're talking on the phone almost every day. He said, "Hey, you should come over here." I said, "Man, I don't know about it." Anyway, so they got to talking, and that's when Vince hired Rip Oliver to come to WWE, and Rip was running it for Don. He said, "Hey, there's a booking job." So it all started, and this talked for me, and that's how I ended up getting that job. Yeah, like
And
that.
of course, Rip passed away a little less than a year ago. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, Rip was one hell of a guy. He's a good friend, and yeah, I love Rip. We were tag team partners in Florida together. We're champions there. We worked all over the country. We both broke in about the same time. We're rookies in this business together. I know him a long time, you know. He's a great guy, man.
We got the SWE Fury Wrestling TV show checking in, saying hi, Lenny.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
You like what they're trying to build in Texas with SWE?
No, I really do. There's some good guys, some great guys there, and they got their heart in it. Those guys, man, they worked their ass off over there trying to keep that show together. It's a lot of work, I know. And yeah, I am. I'm proud of them, man. I wish them the biggest and the best they can do, man, because they're giving a lot of guys work that would have work, and it's also they're using talent from all over, and it's getting over, you know. It's getting over because they're getting to see stuff they don't see with WWE, you know.
As a booker, I mean, SWE's going the opposite direction. They're going old school, but you watch the television wrestling now, and it's pretty hard to watch for the most part. Do you think anything could be done to save it, or do you think it's just going to keep going that direction, and maybe other territories are going to pop up?
I think that it's going to keep going that direction because as long as the sponsors, this paying Vince, or paying the TV time, and all those people are happy with what's going on, they're going to keep pushing in that direction. As soon as they're not going to try to go back to supporting wrestling. You know, they're just all about networking TV and money off TV time, which is a good thing to have. But it's like when it comes to wrestling, it's not going to, you know, and it's so hard to compete with them because they got so much money already in it and already backing it. You know, you'd have to have a guy, even the guy, what's that? I can't never think of the name of that promotion. The one that owns the football team.
Yeah, you know, or Shad Khan or something like that.
So, yeah, even him with that money, I don't know, you know, if he's going to even come close to where Vince is at. You know what I mean? Because he's got so many sponsors and stuff and connections. And before he had that shit before he started running it, you know, so he's so far in advance. But I don't know. I know there's market for the old school type stuff there. That's all you hear people talk about. You know what I mean?
Rob Moore's watching. He says, "Good to see you."
Hey, Rob.
Another fan wants to know if you ever fought George the Animal Steele.
I never did. No, I heard a million things about him, and this never came up this way to wrestle in New York for Vince. You know.
Did you ever work Mil Mascaras?
Yes, sir. I did. Yeah, a few times.
What was that experience like?
Well, the last time I worked, when we got in a shootout there in San Antonio, he tried to take my mask off, and I'm trying to take his mask off. it was crazy, but you know he came in. That was whenever it was Southwest Championship Wrestling. Tully Blanchard and his dad, and Tully books me against Mil. They're pushing me as the top mask guy, and they bring in Mil Mascaras and put us together, which is the top mask guy in Mexico. And they asked Mil to do a job for me. He said no. So I said, well, I'm not doing one for him either. I'm trying to get over. They said, well, you guys go through. So we went 20 minutes through, and like 2 minutes before the match is over, he started trying to take my mask off on a shoot. Well, then it broke into a shoot then, you know, because he pushed. And so anyway, it was just crazy, you know.
Is that the only time that it went into a shoot?
Yeah, that was the only time. The other times I worked with him and had my good, you know, okay match, you know.
I see. Todd says, I guess you might have a story about this. He wants to know about the time you had to let Billy Jack go from Portland Wrestling.
Todd, I know who that guy is. He goes, I forget, let's see what happened. Something happened. Billy did. Don Owens got pissed off. And when I come into the arena that night, he goes, "Come here." He calls me in the office. He says, "I want you to go over there. This is before TV starts. I want you to tell Billy Jack to get his bag and get his ass out of here. He's fired." I go, "Dice, you're the booker. Asshole, go do it. It's your job." That's the way Don would talk to you. You know, he's been around. He's like almost 80 years old. I go, "Okay." So I'm thinking on the way over there, how am I going to tell this guy this without him beating the shit out of me, you know, because he's a big old tough son. And I'm like, you know, I go, "Well, I don't think no way around it. We're going to get into it probably. So hell with it. I've already settled it. You know, whatever happens, happens. But I got to do this." So I got in there and, "Hey, you know, here's all the boys. You know, you can imagine me walking and go, 'Hey, listen, I need to talk to you in the back.'" Everybody stops. "Oh shit!" Right? So Billy's like, "What?" I said, "You heard? Come here." So I take him back there. I said, "Look, okay, but I learned, okay, a long time ago, the old booker move. Listen, brother, this ain't coming from me. That damn Piper and that Don Owens, them sorry bastards, they want me to let you go." I put all the heat right back on Don, right back on Roddy, because Roddy was helping run the territory. Right back on them, and got it. And he goes, and I said, "And they don't even want you. You know what? Those assholes don't even want you to hang around for the show. You need to get your stuff and go." The old man's going off up there. He goes, "Oh, that." He grabs his and he takes off. I went, "Whew, got away with that one." All right, wow. First match, come here. Yeah, I know. But that's what I did. That's how I got out of getting into a fist fight over it. If I went in there and said, "Hey, listen, man, you're screwed up. This is like it was my idea." It wasn't my idea to fire him start with. But it would have broke out in something for no reason, you know what I mean? But I just worked it.
Do you have any stories about John Nord? There's a fan asking.
Yeah. My brother, me and Johnny did so much crazy bullshit I can't even tell. We get arrested. But it's like, I swear. But Johnny.
Well, he's sadly been arrested a lot lately.
Yeah, I know. I think he's in there now. But you know, here's how we used to drink like crazy men, right? And I remember one time and the guy, you never believe this, the guy that was working at the gym, was Collins, the Undertaker, before he got wrestling. He was like 6'10" and real skinny, right? And he was a basketball player at the college there in Fort Worth. And so me and Nord are in there working out, and he comes over to me and he asks me, "Could I train him?" And I go, "Brother, we're on the road every day." And I sent him over to where he got trained at with Gary Hart and Akbar and those guys. But anyway, he was in there that day, and me and Nord are hung over. I mean, we're hammered, hung over. And we're sitting on the ground, on the carpet, and we're doing pull downs, right, with the lap machine. We're doing a lap machine. So we're so hungover. I do a set of 8, and I roll over and go. I would just roll over and be like that. And Nord to get up, me do one, he would roll over. We wasn't even sitting up in the seat. And so we're trying to get through this. Finally, I swear after about 5 sets, Nord rolls over and he goes, he's got that big old beard, and he goes, and just pukes everywhere. And I go, "What the?" He gets and he gets up on his hands and knees, and everybody's looking at him in the gym. He's got puke dripping over his beard. He goes, "It had no," I swear, he goes, "had nothing to do with the beer." I go, "You crazy bastard. Let's get out of here, man." And Collins was watching. He goes, "Oh my God. So you want to be one of these, huh?"
And they ended up, those two ended up feuding in WWE.
Yeah.
Strangely enough. Did you have much contact with Jesse Ventura?
Not much at all, no. No, I mean, I've met him, but that's about it. I never was really around him.
What about Manny Fernandez?
Oh, yeah, a lot of that crazy. Yeah, I had a lot of matches with Manny in Southwest Championship Wrestling. Matter of fact, I went a week around the loop with him in barbed wire matches. Holy cow. That's crazy, man. But, yeah, I worked a lot with Manny because Tully Blanchard was scared to work with him. But yeah, we got along. Yeah, I was in Japan with Manny too. We got along, but Manny was he gave me the worst black eye I've ever had in my life. I never forget.
Really?
It was sticking out of the mask this far. They took a picture for the program, and they couldn't believe it. And but same thing. He did the same thing. He slammed me, went to the top rope, didn't say nothing. I'm looking. All of a sudden, I started to get up, and he caught his elbow right in my eye. He didn't say anything. Same thing happened to Billy Jack. But luckily, this time it wasn't my turn to get hurt.
We brought up Raven earlier, saying you're one of his mentors. Eric wants to know if you have any stories about riding in the car with him, or anything in particular you could remember about Raven.
Yeah, we used to go down. Raven, we made a lot of trips together. Raven and me, and we used to make a lot of long trips and laugh and talk about wrestling and do things. And I remember him. We used to get busted. He had a van, and we'd have his TV going. I remember cops pulled us over a couple times because you weren't supposed to watch, in the back. So we always had it going in the front, but yeah, we just the same old thing as everybody else, up and down the highway, making the trips and stuff like that.
What was Chris Adams like?
I got along with Chris, but we never hung out a lot. I remember one time we were in Boston and we went to a bar. He said, I was there, and I said, we're staying over. And he goes, I said, where do you guys go drink? He said, well, and I forget the name of the street. It's where they get out and they fist fight each other at this bars. And when it closes, there's a certain street there. I don't know the name of it. In Boston, right? And I said, what are you talking about? I never heard this. There really is. So we went there, and I swear, the closing time, the bars start emptying, guys start taking fist fight. I'm going, what the hell's wrong with these people? It's like legendary in Boston, okay? And I couldn't believe it was true. But Chris was good. I got along with Chris good. We had good matches and all. But I wasn't around him a whole lot. Just we off and on different territories a little bit. But not a lot.
Was Steve Austin around you much over the years?
No, not really. I don't think he was in Dallas, but he left before I come in, and I didn't see him. I wasn't around him much at all. No.
There's a fan here that wants to know who was the hardest wrestler to deal with as a booker in Portland. Thanks for all the entertainment you gave us.
The hardest guy. The hardest guy. The hardest one would have been Don Owens. Was the hardest one, okay? But as far as the boys, I think who was giving me headaches over? Sometimes it was Billy Jack. He was hard. He wanted to do certain things, but then I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He was from Australia. He was one of the bushwhackers before. Jonathan Boyd. He was hard. He was a hard one sometimes because he always had his own ideas. And I go, yeah, but you're not the booker. So we're doing it this way. And he didn't like that,
What about Art Barr? Was he easy to deal with?
Yeah, it was very easy. He was a good worker too. Art was. He's just small, but Piper gave him that gimmick. It really got over. Beetlejuice gimmick and all that. Yeah.
The name Hugo Savinovich has come up a few times. Did you feud with him or something, or wrestle him ever? The Puerto Rican announcer.
Was he the guy? I was working Japan for or something? I don't know. Remember? I remember the name, but I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't remember a problem with him or nothing.
Did you have much interaction with Haku?
Some. I knew Haku, but I never got no fights or nothing with him. I know him and I worked in battle royals and stuff like that, But I was good friends with his partner, the Barbarian. We were good friends and stuff, so I knew him through him,
Was the Barbarian as tough as everyone says he was?
Yes, he was. He was. Yeah. He's a tough one, yeah.
Do you have any social media or anything where fans can follow you if they want to look you up?
Yeah, brother, you can go to I got an Instagram. I got I tell you where they need to go. is to eBay and check my. It's called The Real Grappler because I'm selling stuff on eBay. And then Amazon, I have my books on selling Amazon. Or they can go through my eBay to probably get it cheaper. Plus, I'll personally sign it for them and all that. You know.
And what's your book called for people that want to look it up on Amazon and get it?
It's called Memoirs of a Madman. Let's see if I can show you here.
Yeah, pull it up and put it on the screen.
There you go, boss.
Cool.
Okay. Got it?
Yeah. That's what's that sound? What the hell is it? What is this?
Captain Hannibal, here we go.
I didn't recognize you with that man bun instead of the captain hat again.
Oh, well, I don't need the captain hat because guess what? I want everyone to see the man bun of gold back here, okay? I want everyone to see it. I want everyone to enjoy it and appreciate it.
You should borrow one of his masks. It would be a great improvement.
Oh, that's rich coming from you, Hannibal, Mr. Jigsaw. Okay, this is the money maker. You need to stick to staying in the ring because this is what makes me the money. This is what makes the captain the money. Okay, well, you got something to say, Lenny?
Yes, I do. The word is today is go out all over the country, brother. Don't fuck with the grappler. Beat me if you can,
and don't fuck with the captain, Hannibal. That's it.